Welcome everybody coming in to the Vertec Knowledge Series. I hope you're all doing well. We have Dr. Joe Clark from Cincinnati and Dr. Shearer, who's based in Indiana, and they're optometrists there. And we're really glad to have you all here. You may have heard the disclaimer, we're recording this and we post the webinar either in short or in full on our YouTube channel, which is at Vertec HQ. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to send that to the chat. There you go. So today's topic, hello everyone, by the way. Hi, Dr. Shearer. Hi, Dr. Clark. How are you all?
Doing good, thank you.
Good.
Good. We're glad to have you here. This is an exciting topic, and we already have an exciting conversation before we started the webinar. So we're excited to introduce you all. So today's topic is it's part one of a three-part series that Dr. Clark will be leading for us on neurovisual training for sports vision enhancement. And this part is on peripheral vision. So I'll go ahead and introduce you to Dr. Clark and Dr. Shearer, and then we'll go into the presentation. So Dr. Joseph Clark has obtained a bachelor's in chemistry from Susquehanna, am I saying that right? Susquehanna University, as well as a master's and PhD from Michigan State. He has advanced studies in the University of Paris and Oxford University. He's a professor of neurology at the University of Cincinnati. He helps manage the sports concussion program and does research on traumatic brain injury and stroke. Dr. Clark also holds several patents concerning brain biomarkers and neurodiagnostics methods. And then Dr. Shearer, who's been a host multiple times with us, is a neurooptometrist with his own practice in Indiana, specializing in vision therapy, pediatric vision, visually related learning problems, and sports vision enhancement. He's someone who's always had one foot in product development and the other in clinical practice, bringing his vast clinical experience to the innovation of new and useful products for companies like Vertec. So we're happy to have you two having this conversation because you have a lot to talk about. And we're excited to hear everyone's questions. So the way that this works, as a reminder, if you haven't been here before, is that I will go ahead and play the presentation. And during the presentation, feel free to enter your questions in the chat function. That way, Dr. Clark can get to those immediately, and you don't have to wait for the Q&A, especially if we run out of time. You want to make sure to get your question answered as soon as possible. So don't hesitate to put any questions in the chat. And I believe that is it. The presentation runs 25 minutes. So hopefully you can hang out for that and then the live Q&A afterward. All right, here we go. I'm going to ask Charlie and Joe, please just turn off your cameras and your audio and I will play the presentation.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Joe Clark, Dr. Joseph Clark. I'm a professor in neurology. And today we're going to be talking about peripheral vision, testing peripheral vision, training peripheral vision for athletes for performance enhancement and injury prevention. And the first thing I'm going to show you is what we believe are some of the possible benefits that you can get with your athletes should you decide to do peripheral vision testing and training for your athletes. Can we show the video, please? Now in this video, you want to look at number 3, who's in the left-hand corner, and watch what happens with him. He's going to roll out to the left as a screen pass. The ball gets thrown to him and the other player comes at him extremely quickly. And I want to emphasize something. I put the video on pause. He sees the guy coming, knows he didn't make the line to gain, and makes a conscious decision to take the hit. He drops the ball intentionally and he takes a really big hit, which you can see in this view as well. So he was not injured on this play. We believe he could have been, but because he was able to see the hit coming and prepare for it, that aided him in preventing getting injured. So look right at the end of the video. He's now turning towards the player and braces for the hit. They have, illegal helmet-to-helmet contact, and he goes down hard, but he was not injured and came back to play a few plays later and eventually got the MVP for that game. So again, he was definitely not injured. If we take those two videos together of the same person, we believe that this is somewhat evidence of injury prevention. He saw a hit coming, he bailed on the play, but protected himself, and performance enhancement. He saw two guys coming and was able to sidestep them and continue the run. that the peripheral vision enhancement that he got improved his performance such that he was safer and better on the field, which in effect is the ethos of the rest of this talk. So our goal is to introduce you to injury prevention and performance enhancement with regard to peripherals and peripheral vision. We want you to know a little bit about peripheral vision testing and peripheral vision training to get the benefit of the injury prevention and the performance enhancement. So with this slide, it's just an introduction on the right-hand side to show you that there's central vision, and then there's degrees of peripheral vision. And those degrees of peripheral vision can be improved with brain training and brain eye training. The brain is getting the information, but sometimes if without training, the brain may not know what to do with that information. So we work to improve the brain's ability to process and react. So that's perceive and react, see and see quickly. One of the first studies that I want to talk about here is a study that actually overlaps with concussion and performance enhancement. So this study has been published, and what it was is it was a study of 23 consecutive concussion patients that I worked with, relatively equal males and females, and we measured central reaction time and peripheral vision reaction time using the Dynavision. The Dynavision is an FDA-cleared light board for doing such things, and it has an off-the-shelf reaction test. In this slide, you can see this subject is holding a button, and that's part of her reaction testing. And then she has to hit a button. And in this case, she's staring at the button here, and the button that's over here is 45 degrees in her periphery. So this is part of her peripheral vision testing. If we wanted to test her central vision, we would have her standing a little bit to the left, and she would be looking at this button straight ahead. And so that's how we get central and peripheral vision reaction times off of the Dynavision. We actually do this with both right hand, left hand, and left peripheral vision, right peripheral vision. So we end up with multiple data points. So the data that we obtain from those concussed patients are that if you have a concussion, a mild traumatic brain injury, your central reaction time is 0.36 seconds compared to the non-concussed control group of 0.29 seconds. So these two numbers are statistically significantly different. That's not a surprise, published, believe me, ad nauseum. There is a smaller literature set suggesting that the peripheral vision is slower than the central vision. Okay, that's not a surprise. And that peripheral vision is slower in the concussion population. But what was a surprise is this percent slowing. So the average person has a central to peripheral vision slowing of 16%. The average concussion patient has an average slowing of 36%. This is highly statistically significant, which is a component, we believe, of their symptom. But what's interesting and important for this study and this presentation is that when people have been vision trained to train their peripheral vision, like our athletes, like that athlete you saw, instead of this 16% slowing, our population of athletes is 6% slowing. Not only that, this number is faster. So this number is more in the order of 0.23 seconds. And even with a faster reaction time, the delta between central and peripheral is lower, which is a tremendous increase in their relative central to peripheral reaction time. The conclusions from that study are pretty much on screen, but the main conclusions are that central to peripheral reaction time is highly dynamic. It's dynamic post-injury should there be a concussion, and it's highly dynamic and trainable for your athletes to keep them safer and improve their performance on the field. So what are some other generalized data with regard to sports concussion and vision training that includes focusing on improving peripheral vision? So please understand the data that I just talked about shows that we improve peripheral vision reaction times with our athletes. Well, what does that mean? Well, this is what it means. We have significantly cut our concussion rate for our athletes with vision training. So without vision training, without peripheral vision improvement, we average about 9 concussions per year. I do want to address the denominator, 9 concussions per year. A lot of people and places will report concussions as exposures and hits. I use per year, calendar year from January to December 31st. And the reason is I talk to moms, and a mom wants to know what's the likelihood of her son in football getting a concussion per year per season. So that's a unit that's going to make sense to them because they may not be familiar with number of exposures. With vision training, our football team averages 2.3 concussions per year. That's a substantial and statistically significant lowering of concussion. So, 0.000004 p-value. The mean return to play in a study that we did from 2014 to 2020, our return to play is 8.7 days. The national average is actually 14, and the University of Michigan recently came out, like in the last month or so, came out with a study suggesting that the mean return to play for sports-related concussion is 28 days. That's half a season for most athletes. When a person has had vision training for performance enhancement and peripheral vision improvement, we believe their brain is now more primed for rehab after an injury, and that's the mechanism for why our athletes get better faster. We have a study that we compared the University of Cincinnati and our concussion program data to the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, which is the conference we're part of, at least for the immediate future. And the data are as follows. So number of days lost is a left-hand column. So the AAC averages in their concussion population, almost 200 days lost. That's days where those athletes are playing. With our cadre, it's more in the order of 40. This is when you take all of the concussions together and how many days are missed. Now you can also see the number of concussions, which we've already talked about, but this is now comparing like versus like during the same year, our team versus our adversaries during those same years, and then the average days lost, in other words, the average return to play, which is in that same slide data are now here, where you can see it's highly statistically significant with regard to the number of concussions for UC in red versus our adversaries. We have fewer concussions, and UC in red versus our adversaries for days missed. We get our players back faster. And again, we believe that we get our players back faster because we've already done brain training. If you've ever done brain rehab on a patient, or basically rehab on any patient, and they already know how to do the exercises, it makes your job easier. And I believe that is a significant component of why our athletes are getting better faster. Medical disqualification is a big deal. You're basically ending somebody's career. The average medical disqualification per year for our adversaries is 5.6 from 2014 to 2018 for this data cadre, and ours is 0. We rarely medically disqualify people, and again, I think it comes back to the brain training. We do more than just peripheral vision, but peripheral vision is an incredibly important part because the visual system accounts for about 80% of the sensory information to the brain, and the overall cortex, about 60% of the cortex is dedicated in some way to visual processing. So that's a large percentage of the brain that you can train and make resilient before their injury, which we believe aids in their recovery. So if we're still looking at the AAC data from 2014 to 2018, our number of concussions stays pretty low except for 2017. Now in 2017, we had a new coach, and no disrespect to the coach or, a new coach. In 2018, the new coach came in and discontinued our injury prevention oriented vision training. And our concussion rate went up to 10 concussions, which is high for us, but it's more like the national average. A couple of factoids with regard to those 10 concussions. During the preseason, performance enhancement and injury prevention oriented vision training became optional for the football players. We had about 40 football players of our team, which is a little less than half, it's about 40%, voluntarily do vision training. Not one of those 40 are in the concussion group. So all of the concussions that are reported here are from people who chose to not do vision training. When we go back to mean days lost, our mean days lost is relatively flat. That's the blue line. And it's even flat or consistent with previous data in the year we had increased concussions. And we believe that that is a component of our return to play and return to learn philosophy to get our athletes back and work hard aggressively to treat them and help them get better. So a little bit about orientation of the eyes, because it's relevant for a slide coming up. So we already saw a little bit about peripheral vision to the extreme left and extreme right, and there's central vision. But there's also this concept of the eyes being oriented, and there's this concept of ortho that optometric people use. Ortho means the eyes are parallel to the ground and parallel to each other. That is a neutral position for a person's eyes. However, for people who use phones, we may spend a lot of time down and in. Our eyes are pointed down and in, which is far away from ortho. So we need to be aware of that and also work with our athletes and our patients, should they become patients, and be aware of where their eyes are and where their eyes are doing work. Related to peripheral vision, you have a very simple way to test and train peripheral vision with cards like these that you can purchase off of numerous places. And I'm not going to go into the details of the methods. I just want to demonstrate the simplicity. This is a card that you can purchase, and then you cut out a little hole in the center, and you have a person look through the hole with the card about 14 inches away, and they have to stay fixed on whatever's on the other side of the hole, and often that's me. I'm looking at them through the hole, and then they have to use their peripherals to read the objects in their peripheral vision. And usually what I have a person do is they go up and clockwise. So a person would read red smiley face, green heart, green crescent, blue square, white box, yellow diamond, red heart, and so on, reading in their peripheral using one eye and then the other eye. This is a very simple way to train and test peripheral vision, and you get color processing, you get speed because they have to recognize things quickly, and you can get how good or bad their peripheral vision is. You can time it, or you can just give them the charts and have them do it as part of an assignment. Often we set these up with as a station for vision training. They do one eye and then the other eye, and they're done. And it's like a minute and a half because most people can do the entire sheet in less than a minute. This slide pretty much just outlines what I just said. I like the person to be at ortho, straight ahead, because if a person's looking down, then they might lose some of their lower peripherals. So ortho and straight ahead is kind of the way to go. The default is 15 inches apart. Closer is harder, farther away is easier. And you can make it farther or easier If a person's having a real hard time, I'll say, okay, make it 16 inches or 18 inches, and then they can train to get it closer. Peripheral vision and pitch and catch. Most athletes love to do pitch and catch. So picture, if you will, you throw two batons at somebody that have these color palettes on it. Let's say the two on the left. And right as you throw the baton, you have to tell the two batons, you tell the person to red. And that means they're to catch them on red. And also part of the instructions are they don't look at the batons. They're not like here or here. You can see this on the video, look left, look right. They keep their eyes straight on you, and they have to know and trust their peripheral vision to make the catch. So now this is eye-hand coordination, trusting their peripheral vision. Many people will say, oh, I saw it over there, so I looked, but I should have been watching the ball. Well, watching the ball, saw it over there and knew what it was, is a whole different world. And that's the type of thing that we're trying to train. Typically, we have somebody do about 30 throws of two batons at once. If they're dropping the batons, we'll maybe do one at a time and practice the peripherals. And then they learn to trust their peripheral vision when trying to catch the batons on the right color. And we can even escalate it. We'll escalate it with little tricks like, okay, so we got red, blue, and green, but now let's say purple, and red and blue are purple. Or we can go to batons that have a lot more colors. You can progress these to keep it fresh and interesting for the athlete. So this is a nice little slide. Everyone try and look at the center of the star in the center. And what you're going to tell the athlete to do, or what you're going to try and do, is read the alphanumeric without moving your eyes. Now, after a while, everybody should be able to get that ADG, or floating around you. But how do you know somebody's been keeping their eyes straight and training their peripherals and they've not been glancing around? You page down, and you and the athlete or the subject should see a bright yellow circle in the center. So that's the retinal retention. That's the after image. So now you're training eye discipline and peripherals. Many times people lose eye discipline when something comes into their peripherals, when they shouldn't lose eye discipline. This is highly relevant for, say, a defensive back in football, where they may be told to keep their eyes on the quarterback, but be aware of somebody coming into their zone. This is the perfect drill for them. And again, these are available. Templates are available. You can buy them. They're kind of all over the place. This is a little bit of a drill that we use with the Dynavision, where somebody is hitting the board and then the card is moved. When they see the movement, they take a quick look to read what's on the card. Now, sometimes they should look, sometimes they shouldn't look. So one of the things you can do is you can have, say, a solid blue card, and that means they acknowledge blue, or a math flashcard, and they have to turn, take a quick look and go back to their task, and then answer the flashcard. So that's making decisions of what they're supposed to do in their peripheral vision. Do they take their eye off the ball? Do they take their eye off the quarterback or not? And this is a great drill to train for that. This is an example of a heart chart. This is another training modality for peripheral vision. The way this works is you can have a piece of paper. I'm going to do a demonstration of one on the next slide on a computer. But say you have a piece of paper where you cover the 4 left columns and the 4 right columns, and you tell a person to track straight down between the center 2 columns without moving their eyes left and right, and read in their periphery. They have to read MCAHG2 9M 4D OB XP K7 BN without moving their eyes left and right, just going down. That's eye discipline and peripheral. Then you say, great, now do it again. And you go down this column and keep the outer 3 closed. And you time how quickly a person can do that. I have personally seen people that I vision trained, they are able to read down this center column and read all the way out here with a sheet that's 14 inches away. Most people can do 2 or 3 columns with a little bit of work. And then with vision training, we're getting to 4 and 5. And with high performers, even 6. That is a tremendous improvement in vision, peripheral vision, because now they're able to recognize color and character in their extreme peripheral vision and provide that information to the brain. This is the exact same thing as I said before, but how do you progress it, make it interesting? You progress it, make it interesting by a distraction. And this would obviously be done on a computer screen, and you might use boxes to cover the outer columns, but now we have eye discipline and avoiding distraction. So testing peripheral vision, obviously optometrists have automated perimetry. I do not have automated perimetry. If you don't know what it is, it's the big thing you put your head in and there's flashing lights and you have to click when the lights are flashing. Those are great. I don't have that. But I do have Uno cards and a goniometer, and I can literally get how good or bad somebody's peripheral vision is, at least an indicator that has been correlated to automated perimetry, using simple color cards. And this is just an image of somebody doing the peripheral vision assessment. And this is how we record it. You typically use red, yellow, green, and blue, right eye and left eye. The first number is for the anatomic assessment, like when they start seeing something, either moving or coming into their peripherals. And if you remember the screens earlier, that's usually about 110 to 100 degrees in the periphery. And then when they can start recognizing the colors, that's a different set of tasks for the brain to process and recognize that color. Why is color important? If I am a football player on a field and I'm about to catch a ball and I see a green jersey running at me and I'm wearing red, I need to know the difference. If I can't tell what green is in my periphery, that can actually hurt me because I might need to take my eye off the ball. So we will test the efficacy of color peripheral vision. And I have had incidences of people who were not colorblind but had poor color peripheral, and we will uptrain that. That's another subject on how to do that. If you don't mind, this is a little bit of a joke, but it's not. This is a device you can buy to do peripheral vision assessment. You can assess alphanumeric. It gives you degrees. You can do one eye and both eyes. The tiny little joke with this is the picture on the right is wrong. The cards, the board should be above the forehead. And these cards are to the tester and these cards are to the person. This is showing the person a little bit too much information. So it's, for me, it's kind of funny when you use them. And I've got no problem with devices like this. I have one, and to be honest, I prefer Uno cards and a goniometer or a protractor. So in conclusion, why do peripheral vision testing and training? Performance enhancement, injury prevention. Please remember those videos in the beginning. How to train. There are lots of ways to train. Some expensive, some not so expensive. That's kind of my story. Thank you so much for your time. And I really love questions. So any questions, please.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Welcome back, everybody. That was fantastic. Really appreciate you sharing not just the success you've had at University of Cincinnati, but then making it so applicable for others and our clinicians to take home some wisdom from that and apply it right away. So thank you. I'm going to drop off now and kick it over to Dr. Shear to lead the Q&A. So please keep adding your questions to the chat. And thank you, Eleanor. I see one from you.
I just love these webinars because even as an eye doctor or an optometrist, I think I know it all. And then I hear someone like Dr. Clark talk from a different profession and I learn even more. So some of the common questions that we had discussed earlier regarding the webinar, one of the questions would be, how much time does it take to do the vision training to improve peripheral vision? I mean, how many hours a day would it be?
Yeah, super important question. And in my personal opinion, the answer is not a lot. We've had great success with, say, our baseball team of 20 to 30 minutes twice a week for 6 weeks. If you do the math, it's about 250 minutes total training time distributed over a period of time. So like strength and conditioning, you can't do 8 hours of strength and conditioning in one day and see the benefit that you might if you did 1 hour 2 or 3 times a week. So you've got to spread it out. The critical number that we have been working under is 250 minutes with 3 to 6 spread out through 3 to 6 weeks before you start.
Another question would be, how long does the vision training effect last, or does it last forever? Or
yeah, that's on the chat, and that's a really important question as well. It is perishable. It goes away. In one of our papers that I will talk about in the next webinar, it addresses the perishability. But in about 3 or 4 months, we see a substantial drop in performance in peripheral vision, in depth perception, and saccadic eye movement. But once a person's been trained, then the on phase, they get better quicker because they don't have to learn how to do it again. But with, say, our sports teams, we do once a week, 20 minutes to half an hour once a week as a maintenance phase during the season to minimize drop off.
And that's so interesting to me, because I do a lot of home-based therapy with children and sports enhancement, and my training schedules are about the same. 20 minutes is about the most that they can stand, and you know, we always tell them we take them up here because when we quit, you're going to slide back a little bit, and it won't last forever. So
right,
great minds think alike. I love that. How much would it cost the typical program to get started doing this, and where would they find those materials?
Well, the cost is highly variable, but I work with a very good athletic trainer who is a vision trainer for sports specifically, and he carries around a kit that is about $120 from Amazon and Michaels. Now, if you're in optometry, you know Brunel, and Brunel is awesome, but it's expensive. If you don't mind arts and crafts, you can make your own Brock strings. You can make your own heart charts. You can make your own pinhole peripherals. You can make your own Marsden balls. And then it's not very expensive. So mine is a hybrid, right? I've got Dynavision. I've actually got visual evoked potential for color assessments to see it, you know, because I've got the whole neuro background. But if you want to just do, and I don't mean just in a diminutive way, sports performance enhancement vision training, $120, $200, and you can really get started, especially if you're crafty. If you want to buy some stuff, there's Amazon, Brunel, and Interactive. Interactive sells kits and comes with instructions. In full disclosure, I am an unpaid consultant right now for Interactive, and I write a lot of their protocols.
Great. Well, looks like we need to take some of the questions that were put in chat.
In the chat, yep.
Yep. And look, let me drop it back up here to the start.
Well, I can read the first one. How do you accommodate people who wear sports glasses? It depends upon, it always depends upon their craft and what their sports glasses are for. When I'm asking people to do sports vision training, I tell them, I want you wearing whatever you would wear during your athletic competition. And I also will check their sports glasses to make sure they're not cutting out peripherals. One of my studies that I didn't talk about was there were several brands of field hockey safety glasses that actually took away peripherals, and we assessed that, and it really did impact their performance. So I will also assess if peripherals are taking away depending upon the type and brand of sports glasses. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, chat down below.
Yeah. The only thing I might add to that is that we're insistent that those lenses be polycarbonate lenses because they're super impact resistant. They'll actually, in some cases, stop a 22 bullet. We've tested it. And they should be in a sports frame so that when it does, or if it were to break, it breaks away from the eye, not back towards the eye. So don't go cheap on sports glasses.
Mhm.
It bites you in the long run. The next question is actually from a friend of mine, Randy Cohen. Does training gain stay for a long period of time? And again, we've answered that in the frequently
Nope.
asked question. Next question, it was, we are lucky enough to have a sports vision clinic at the University of the Incarnate World in San Antonio, Texas. It's a great tool. And I guess that's more of a statement than a question. And that happens to be a recently developed optometry school with a very good reputation. So I would encourage anyone to, if you're not working with a sports vision optometrist locally, seek one out. There's some resources for that. So, and I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. So if anybody has any, please type them in. I'd like to make a comment from the optometrist side. When we talk, I 150% agree with Dr. Clark's assessment of there's 2 points to vision therapy. Coaches think about performance. Athletic trainers and people who have to repair the problems think about prevention. And vision therapy has 1 foot in each world. On one side, you're trying to improve performance. On the other side, boy, if they can see a hit coming or pick it up, they're going to be able to avoid that. So another question, do you assess peripheral vision during the athlete's PPE?
Yeah, so during pre-participation exam or preseason physical for the University of Cincinnati, for many of our athletes, our combat athletes, 2 types of peripheral vision are assessed. Peripheral vision reaction time with the Dynavision and pretty much the confrontation of visual fields assessment, again, because I don't have automated perimetry, but the answer is yes.
Would you be so kind as to cite some references for time change with MTBI?
Sure. So in optometry and visual performance, we published our decrease in concussion rate. And I'm the first author, and it starts with an exploratory study of, I think it's sports vision training and concussion. I can look it up on my other computer. The other thing is the company Interactive is hosting several of my papers from their website. So I can put that in. So I put the URL in of www.interactive.com/publications. And they've got several of those publications in there, including the performance enhancement, injury prevention, and accelerated return to play post sports-related concussion or mild traumatic brain injury.
The other thing I might comment on that I learned from this myself today is the idea of doing color peripheral vision awareness. As optometrists, we use the term peripheral awareness probably more than peripheral vision, but commonly thought that your good color vision is central. It was always thought you don't have color vision in your periphery. There are very few cones out there, but most recent research and your study in particular has shown that we have a lot more color vision awareness in our peripheral vision than what was ever thought. And that is a change within, I would say, the last 5 or 10 years, wouldn't you think?
Yes. Yeah, I think we've been more aware about color awareness in the periphery, because obviously fidelity, like we're not going to be reading colored charts over here, but being able to say that's a green jersey versus a red jersey, that's important. And saving that 200 milliseconds from here to here, it can be a lot on a football field with people running 22 miles an hour.
Exactly. And it's very sport dependent too, of course. So what is the physiological explanation that vision therapy reduces frequency of concussion or MTBI?
We don't know. We've speculated that the reaction time and peripheral vision contributes to that. If you remember the introductory video, that was of an athlete who was going to make a catch, saw something coming in his periphery, and was actually able to brace for it. So in sports-related concussion, so I'm not talking about IEDs and bullets to the head, being more field aware and able to avoid hits quickly. So that's reaction time and peripheral vision are the two big ones that we suspect contribute to decreasing mild and traumatic brain injury and sports-related concussion.
Any other questions anybody has, please kind of type them in. If not, I'll ask Dr. Clark to just add any comments that might have been stimulated by all these questions. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm thinking. Not really. I mean, hopefully if anyone has some questions, they can, tweet them, or I'll be back actually next week, or no, I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I forget when, but I'll be back shortly, and we can touch base again.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to thank you all for attending, and remember that these webinars will get posted on our YouTube channel, and then we'll have some other preference or places where you'll be able to find them in the future, and Twitter and so on. But I'll let Alyssa jump back on, and she can give the schedule for the next ones.
Here to remind you of when you're presenting next. Yeah, thank you so much. Excellent presentation and great questions in the chat. So I'm just going to plug our upcoming webinars now, and Dr. Clark's second part will be the one after next. So the very next webinar we'll have is on October 27th, which is a Wednesday, from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And the subject of that one will be the advantages of a multidisciplinary approach. So that webinar will feature Shelley Massengale, who she's one of the main facilitators of our customer training course for Vertec. And so that she teaches clinicians that use our computerized dynamic posturography system. She's the administrative director for sports medicine across the Banner Health system. And so she'll be sharing the structure of and the best practices she discovered for running the multidisciplinary practice there that Dr. Scheer actually helped set up as well. So they'll have a nice chat reminiscing about that and sharing some wisdom with the folks that join. And then following that on November 10th. So we actually have a while before your next part, Dr. Clark. That's another Wednesday from 3 to 4. We continue this 3-part series with Dr. Clark on neurovisual training for sports performance enhancement, which is hard to say fast. The second installment of this series will be on speed of reaction time, which we know is a key skill in sports. So sort of building off what we talked about here. If you missed any part of this or you want to share it with people that you know, you can go to Vertec HQ on YouTube, and it might be nice to watch this part before joining us for the second part, but not necessary. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Clark and Dr. Scheer, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, be well. Bye.